everyone, it's Budget with Mama Bear. Thanks for stopping by my channel. Happy Friday. I'm so glad you're here. Today is a special day that we're going to be talking about going back to the basics. All right, so if you're new here, I have a budgeting channel that focuses on budgeting your money using the cash envelope system, as well as using savings challenges to fund those goals. So I talked about this in my last video. May was one of those Mays. It was not a good month. And when that happens, sometimes our spending gets a little out of control. Not too bad, but it could have been better. And tracking and all of that. Well, we are going to be calling this period of time recovery mode. So I am in budget recovery, and I love using that term because I looked up, I got to drink my coffee as the definition for recovery. Okay, so the definition of recovery is a return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength. So you can use that for lots of things in your life, but you can also use it for your budget. So returning to a normal state of a healthy budget, a normal mindset for your budget, and giving you strength, because when you have your finances in check, it definitely builds that feeling of strength in your finances. Okay, so in June, this is going to be definitely on Fridays, a budget series. Okay, so I'm so glad you're here for this. One thing I wanted to talk about is the why. Well, change is inevitable, and I want you to know that change is okay. So when it happens, with what I had and all of that, it's important that you do make a change, right? You stop, reflect, and focus. And that is something that I spent time doing to prepare for a better June, July, and August, right? Because sometimes in the summer months, it can get a little crazy if we're out and about, the weather's nice. You tend to want to maybe spend money more than normal. Okay, so what I decided to do, and I'm going to walk you through my process and what I did. Now, I am not a financial advisor, not at all. All I do is put ideas out there. I show you what I do to maybe give you a nugget here and there, a little piece of an idea that you could maybe take and put into your family and your budget, or something that interests you or sparks your imagination. Remember, mine is not to copy, mine is to get inspired by, okay? Because everybody's budget's different, everybody's life is different, your lifestyle is different, your amounts are different. You've got to make it reflect into what you can do with your budget. Okay, so the first thing I did was I decided to get inspired. And let me go back a little bit. I was watching Two Sister Bees. And if you haven't noticed, Two Sister Bees, Jen on there, has been doing a lot of speaking videos. And she, and I love watching them because she's got a lot of good things to say. And so the last one really spoke to me. And I was like, I need to get my butt in gear, right? And I need to get going on this. And one of the things that she talked about was simplifying a little bit, right? So the first thing I did was, what can I do to simplify? And that's the first thing that I did. Like, I could have looked at where I was financially, any of that. I want stuff like I went through and simplified. Now you can do this or not, but let me show you what I did. I went through my sinking funds, and I love my sinking funds. I do, and I believe in them. But for right now, and the way that my focus is right now, I needed to simplify them again, okay? Now, if you notice, all of the dashboards are still in here. because of the fact that I will use these again because these were important to me, but they're not a high priority. So I had something in here for fuel. I really didn't need it in there. It was distracting because I really just budget and keep that money in the bank. I took some shipping out, giveaway, budget supplies, planner, future technology, home stuff that was just sitting in there, retirement. I'm not ready for this yet if I've got debt. This one, I'm on the fence still, and I'm actually thinking I need to put this back in. Flooring, home improvements, shopping, beauty, clothes. I don't need glasses yet. I don't need a debt envelope in there. Okay, and then I finished up the other day a couple challenges, and I told you I was going to tell you what this was going to go towards today. And that's why this envelope is sitting here. My husband had to go to a doctor's appointment, and I think it's going to be more regular. And I saw how much he used the debit card for, and he put $238 on our debit card. Didn't tell me. We talked about this in the last video. Hubby's been swiping a little bit. So I decided to take, yes, this one I was saving for medical, but that wasn't enough. To take the medical, to take the Mother's Day money, and to take the 2025 from Judy and put it into my medical. And then from there, guess where it's going? In the bank, because we've got to replenish that money. So when you wonder why I keep a cushion in my checking account, that's why. Because I see unexpected swiping a lot. And so I have to make sure that I'm okay and we're prepared for that. Okay. Is it okay that he goes to the doctor? Absolutely. He has a problem with pain and from an accident he was in. And so that is making him feel better. And so that is important, right? All right. So we have a total of 100, 200, 250, 270, 280, 290, 300, 10, 20, 30, 45, 55, 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 72. So 372, and out of that, the 238 is going to come out and go to, let me just take it out right now. The bank. All right, so then the rest will go in here and will continue to be a sinking fund that we're going to actually stuff more regularly because we need to make sure we have that available for him. All right, so let's get this money ready to go back to the bank. Bye-bye. But you know what? At least we had it, right? Okay, so today is Mama Bear Day, so I've got my Mama Bear cup. Got to keep focused on the goals. All right. Okay, so that is the first step that I did is I cleared out a lot of unnecessary, for right now, sinking funds. Okay. And then I have to say what I went back to, I'll talk about in just a minute, because there's a reason why we have to go back to the beginning with our budgeting. So that is why I brought out one of my old budget planners with my new one to kind of show you what I used to do and where I'm going to go going forward until we get caught up again. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside for right now. So what triggered this also was the fact that, okay, yes, I did a lot of spending, but here I am saying I'm focusing on my debt payoff, right, on my channel. Well, I've been slowly focusing on my debt, and I don't know what it was, but something like lit inside of me that, you know what, stop messing around. And how many of you have ever felt that way? Like, okay, that's enough. So what I decided to do is to go and spend some time with my finances. Here, I'm going to put this up here so you have something to look at other than my hands. Look at my finances. And that is what I did. I spent a lot of time just looking at interest rates and balances and minimums. And then I looked at my checking account, my savings account, my high yield savings account. I looked at all of those things, and I looked at how long do we have to pay off this? How long do we have to pay off that? And it's important to do that on a regular basis, but I kind of put it off a little bit. And so what I decided to do was, I'm going to tell you a little story about old Mama Bear. Way back when, in my young years, pre-kids and right when they were little babies, is we wouldn't pay attention. We would just be like, yeah, we're making good money now. We're young adults, right? Because we got married really young, had kids young. And we were like, we're doing pretty good, and we were paying all of our bills, but then we were like barely scratching by with the rest of the money that was left over. We'd eat out, we'd spend whatever we wanted on groceries. I didn't know what budgeting was, never was taught about it. I'm an educated person, never was taught about budgeting. And that's the embarrassing part of that. But you know what? We've moved on from that. My husband is an educated man. He was never taught about budgeting. Like, our families didn't focus on that. They were like, we live day to day. I grew up a little bit different than he did. And on my side, Mom just jiggled the money, she said. I don't know what that ever meant. But we were not rich, let's just say. Both my parents worked really hard. We never felt I went without. But I know, looking back now, we did not have a lot of money. They provided for us, though. They were wonderful parents. And so just didn't come from that background of knowing how to do stuff like that. And so we lived that way. And I remember there were times where I would take my kids to the grocery store and take my debit card out and go, okay, hold your breath, swipe, please go through, because I had no clue what we had. And, it was almost like I would do thank goodness, when it would go through, because I wasn't sure. And I was so scared that one day I was going to sit there and it wasn't. And one time it did. And then I was like, okay, where's my credit cards? I barely had enough on there to put the rest of it on there. So, of course, as the years went by, I got smarter with my money. We made more money where we didn't have to live the hold your breath anymore. But, until I really started focusing on this whole budgeting thing in 2022, and, 2022, my kids were technically adults by then. And so I really wanted to teach them, and I wanted to learn about this, because I'm like, okay, they're going into their adulthood. What am I going to do for them to change this cycle that I went through? So I started looking on videos. I started, researching, and this is how I found this, right? So I know I'm talking a lot, but this is kind of important if you're just starting out. Like, it's okay to not know all the things just yet. And if you've been doing it for a while, it's okay to be in recovery mode. But what I did was I looked at my debt and I was like, okay, we can't do anything until this is gone. And I feel like we're on this vicious cycle again. So we are seriously focusing in on debt. Well, here's what I discovered. I was doing the snowball method, and from Dave Ramsey, where you pay the little ones off first and then take that payment, put it towards the next one, right? But I had one credit card looming over me that I don't know what it was. It was like nagging at me, like, you're never going to get to me. You're never going to get to me. You're paying almost $300 in interest every month on me. And it really was bugging me. It was like, ooh, like it was like that bad, evil credit card, right? And so I decided to flip it. And I had a cushion in my bank account. And this is why I went back to that story. That was insane because I never want to have that feeling of holding your breath while you swipe, right? So not only am I a month ahead, which I worked up to, I was pretty much like 2 months ahead plus a cushion in my checking account. And here I am sitting with this debt looking at me going, ha ha ha. So I decided that I'm not going to mess around with this card anymore, and I'm going to chop it down using some of that money. And I'll tell you, it's a weird feeling, and I still have a pit in my stomach right now because I took that out. But I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. So let me show you what I did. So what I was doing, and I'll show you on my Kohl's card because this one's paid off now. This is one of the little ones, right? Is I designed this debt tracker where it says debt, start balance, creditor, interest rate, paid off date, minimum, paid, balance, and notes. And I've been using this style for a while, but it really wasn't giving me the information that I needed. Like how much was the interest that was being put on there every month? Did I have any extra charges that I was adding onto it? Because I think that in my face is important. And then it was just missing. Like I needed it different. So I was watching Andrea at the Traveling and Savings Chief, and I really liked the way that her and Donna designed her form, but it was still missing something that I needed on mine. So I kind of just was playing around with that and changed this to this. Okay, so I put the year, what debt it is. I have the months. So this is the one thing I liked from Andrew's form, is having the months here on the side. Okay, so I incorporated that over here. Added charges is something I put on there because I want to see, did I charge anything on this that month? Interest charged. Where's that interest? Because my credit cards have interest on them. All you out there that have the 0%, yeah, you're doing it right. Minimum payments, amount paid, and ending balance. That is what I needed. For each credit card, I am going to fill this out so I can track it, okay? And this is important because here's the problem that I had. I'd get one paid off with the snowball method, and then when something came up, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to put it on the ones I'm trying to pay off. I'll put it on the paid off one, and then that way I know exactly how much I need to put towards it to get that out of there again. And that was working for a while until a couple things came up. And now, guess what? That credit card has a balance on it again. So you have to be careful. You have to be very careful. So I think this is going to be in my face. The added charges column is probably going to be my most hated but favorite thing on here, if that makes sense. Okay. And let me show you what I did with the big one. Now, I normally don't show this on here, so this is new for me, but I'm deciding to do it. Okay, so here it is. This is the year 2025. This is my Southwest credit card. Just so you know, I was able to get my flights very cheap to go on my cruise all the way across the country to fly to Florida because I had those points on there. Okay, so that's why this was one that I liked having, but then I didn't like, right? Now, you'll see why I was able to do this, but we'll go back to my goal in just a minute, okay? All right, so let me show you how I filled this out. Now, in January, this card, I hope you can see that, had $10,200 on this card. And that's where I was like, it's just eating at me. Like, you're never going to get to me. You have all these other ones, and it's going to be years. The interest that was being charged was $209. Now, that's actually the lowest because I've seen it where it was almost 3. And that was like ridiculous because the minimum payment is 3. I was paying $350. So if you think about it, I was only paying off $141 every time I paid on this card. And here I was thinking I was doing, a good amount every time. No, not when you owe $10,000. And as you can see, that was pretty consistent. $350, $350. Look, an added charge. $350. Okay, it was slowly coming down, but not as fast as I wanted it to. You can see the interest is adding up, right? This one. Okay, this is in May. Okay, we're down into May. And what you can see, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more, is that is when we finished the 5K, and I put that money towards our cruise because, remember, I had to pay certain things. I had to pay for the flight. I had to pay for all the stuff. So there was an added charge of $1,400. So I paid even more than, what was it, like $2,100 and something that I owed on the cruise. I actually paid more than that to cover even some of that minimum. All right. But look, it didn't do anything. So then come to June. I paid $6,350. The $350 is what I already budget for, correct? But then I took $6,000 out of my checking account and decided it should not just be sitting there as a buffer, and put it towards this card and knocked it down to under $3,000. So I started at 10 and now I'm under $3,000 on this one. Okay. Now, this one here was some medical, the $453 charge was a medical bill that I had. And so I'm working at getting that paid off. And that is where my medical envelope is going to be really important to bring back. Okay. But that's huge because this is what I'm going to attack first. Now that it's so low, and some of you might be going, that's not really low. But for me, yes, it is compared to this. This is more manageable in my eyes. And now I'm saying, oh yeah, look at what I did to you. Boom, I took a cut. So I'm going to feel really good when this is at 0. So this is going to be my number one debt to pay extra debt on. And when this gets to 0, I'm going to go back to the other ones and start paying that down. So my goal for this is to have it paid off. Let me show you that. In October of 2025. So say some prayers for me that I can get that done, because that's going to be really important for me to do that. That's going to be a huge success. So now what I can do is I can just keep tracking it every month. And this is the month. So I'm going to have to make certain amounts of payments towards this debt. And how am I going to do that? Let me show you. Okay, here they are. So these are the challenges that I'm going to be working on. As you saw, we kind of took the long terms and put them aside for a little while. We took out the money. I will talk about some of the others that I took out and where that money went. But Mama's Minis is still going to continue on Mondays. And this money is going to go towards sinking funds. And each one is allotted for a different sinking fund because I still need to fund my sinking funds. So that way, if something comes up, I'm not having to scramble to get the money. Okay, so Mama's Minis is going to go towards sinking funds. We're also doing our daily. And so I have our save the date. And that one is going towards debt. So this one is a good one. So this one's going to go towards debt. And then I have the $1 a day, which is in here. And this one is going towards debt. The no spend is going towards, you got it, debt. Okay, so these are, all this envelope is going towards debt. And I keep going like this because I have my cheat sheet over there where all my notes are. Okay, then I have our debt binder, which you've all seen. And every challenge in here that we finish goes towards paying off debt. Now, this is my new summer binder. So when we start it this week, I will go through all the challenges and everything. But this is going to be for our sinking funds. So this is going to be savings challenges, and we finish these, it's going to go towards our sinking funds. So our daily, our minis, and our summer binder are going to go towards sinking funds. Everything else is going to go towards debt. That's it, period. Okay, so that's how we're going to get there with savings challenges. All right, now with budgeting, I'm going to kind of show you some things here that, remember I showed you my binder, right? One thing I'm going to be doing with my debt as well is, if you haven't been on debt-free charts, they have a lot of charts on there that are fun to color. And you know, I got all these fun markers, and so I thought I'm going to get me one of those. They're free, by the way, to track some of my debts. So we have my husband's truck loan that is still working on being paid off. So what I did was I put what we owe still on that. Okay, so we started this in June. This is what we owe left on it. Big trucks are not cheap, right? And then I started the tracker, and for each square, it's $280. Okay, when I get to here, we've paid $7,000, we've paid $14,000, we've paid $21,000, and then we'll be at the finish line. So we're going to track that on here as we go through. I'd really like to pay this off. It's scheduled to be paid off in December of 2027. But if I can get this paid off earlier, that would be great. But we'll see. And then here's the big one. Okay, debt confession time. This is where we started. This is what we've been working on. Okay, so we're getting there. Okay, we're getting there. And we're going to track it on here. All right, we'll get it done. My goal is June of 2026 to accomplish that. We'll see. I think if I continue my focus and also focus on focused spending, that's another thing, right? Because you can't say I'm not going to spend for the rest of my life until this is paid off. Reality is that's not true. But if you have focused spending, it helps. Does that make sense? Okay, so I know this was a lot, and we're going to continue, but I'm also going to show you in the next Fridays coming up how I'm working with my budget. So now what we need to do is think about, okay, I just used my month ahead, and I also need to keep a cushion in my checking account. So how am I going to budget my money? Because before I would go to, here we go, June 1st, pay all my bills off. Boom, they're done because the money's there, right? All my money that I made in May pays for June bills. Well, now we're going to have to go back to the beginning where I started to set that, get me in a place where I could do that, let's just say. So we are going to pretend like, I mean, not pretend, but we're going to basically go back to doing that where I get paid here, that pays up to this much. Then I get paid here, it gets paid up to this much. And that's basically, but we get paid very weird. I get paid monthly. My husband gets paid on the 15th and the 30th. So it's kind of a weird system. Like those of you who get paid weekly or every other week and have like a consistent thing, it's so much easier. But when you get paid weird, I had to sit there and I was watching a bunch of videos, and then I realized that I have to come up with my own system. So I did percentages. And let me show you an old sheet that I came up with. And this is after several months of doing this. But I want to show you, ignore this because this is kind of like scratching out, like figuring out what we did. I used to use this to budget my money. And 28%, 45%, 28%, 28%. So when I would get paid, 28% would go towards mortgage, car insurance, subscriptions, loans, power, phone, truck, there's that truck, life insurance, credit cards, things like that. So when I got the bigger amounts, that would be the one-time big check, right? 45% of that would go towards this. So based on that, I'd be able to pay my bills. Then the rest of it I would use for my sinking funds. And then I would use it for my wallet. And then I would use it for my savings. And back then I was only saving like $200 a month. Like that's all I could use. I had to spread that out and save that. And then eventually it slowly built up. And you know what? I want to show you that it can happen. All right. So next Friday, I'll kind of go into how I'm going to set up my July, because June's paid off, paid all the bills because we had already planned for that. Now we've paid that money. We've got to set up July differently. So I'm going to walk you through how I'm going to do that in the next couple of Fridays. And so those of you who are just starting out with budgeting, this might be of interest to you. Those of you who are kind of looking to who had those questions of how do you do savings challenges and pay your bills? That question somebody asked stuck in my head. I'm going to show you how I do it, okay? And how I'm going to be doing it. All right, so I'm going to show you my wallet we're going to be using for the summer. I usually shrink down my purse in the summertime, so my wallet has to shrink. This is a wallet that I had in my stash. I didn't buy anything. Also, what I do is I keep my envelopes, and so we're going to reuse these. These are so cute. I don't remember who made them for me. It's been that long, but probably not my favorite. I like the bigger ones because you can fit more stuff in them, but we're making it work because it fits in my purse. So we're going to go ahead, and we have nothing in groceries. Mama's Cash has $4. We're taking it out. Fun Money has nothing. Buffer, which was my miscellaneous, has $6. And other, I used to not use a household. So I think I'm just going to keep it in my other, and we're going to keep that. And I had $1, so we're going to keep that in there. All right, so this right here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 will go towards savings challenges. And depending on what they're for, they'll end up going to where they need to go. Okay, so that will go there. And we're going to go ahead and stuff our wallet for this week. And I'm going to show you what changed a little bit because I'm lowering the amount that's going in here. So with my new budget, that's what's going to have to happen. So we're still going to keep our $250 for groceries. Okay. Mama's Cash is getting nothing. I don't need to be spending any money. Fun Money is going to get 30, and that's if we do something, because the reality is, we try to get out a little bit. We'll see. Hopefully I don't spend it. And then Buffer, instead of 10, is going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know why I have 6. I'll put it over here. $5. That's it. And we'll put that in here. You know what? We'll put that one in household. So now household has 2. There we go. Okay. So the wallet is done. This is going to go towards our weekly savings challenges. And we're done. So recovery mode. Let's go through this with me. Like I said, next Friday, I will go through the July budget, how we're going to set that up. I'm going to show you how we do percentages. I'm going to show you how you can take whatever you make and plot it into. Remember, the first thing you always need to do is pay your bills. Don't do a savings challenge until your bills are paid. Okay, sometimes you have to hold off on those or do them every other month. But you need to pay your bills. You need to have food. You don't want to do the swiping like I did where you hold your breath. You need to have your necessities paid for first. And then whatever's left over is where you can decide what you want to do with it. Okay? All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was a lot of talking and a little longer than normal, but it's something that is important to me, so I thought I would share it with you. I hope you have a blessed day, and as always, I double love you.